It's been moved and seconded for discussion. Hearing none. We'll open the public hearing. Jacob, you want to start, or you want to start with Jim?
I said Jim start.
Okay, Jim, you want to start?
Yes. Can everybody hear me? Or hear as much as they want to hear?
Let's see if we can volume up here, Jim.
Plus back here. Is there a plus? Ah, there you go. All right, try it now, Jim.
Does this work? Can you hear me?
That's about as good as we're
Testing.
gonna get.
Testing one. I'll speak up. Some may not even want to hear me. I've done this so many times in Worth County that my biggest regret of not being there today is I can't go to lunch at the corner cafe and get more gossip. That was always why that place was good, along with pretty good food and pie. But at any rate, I'll quit. I did not send to Jackie what I call my Drainage 101 outline. This district has been going through like annexation, reclassification. I think I've reported those things to the landowners. I just want to briefly go through some drainage law and procedure right at the start. Then I'll turn it over for the engineers to review with you. But this is the actual formal hearing on repairs. You supervisors are required by the drainage code to keep all district facilities in a good state of repair. Repair means the original design efficiency and original design, I'm sorry, blocked on that word, but it's the original design efficiency and original design capacity. That is a repair. You are required by law to do it. There is no discretion. It doesn't matter if all of the landowners in the district object to it, you still have to move forward with a repair when the engineer recommends a repair. The engineer tells me that in this district, you've been doing some spot repairs from time to time over the years, but it's been a really long time since the entire ditch has been cleaned out, and it is in need of a good clean out. The engineer has filed his report. His report contains everything that he proposes to do, and we'll be able to vote on that report if the board has enough information today. You board members need to know that if some issues come up today and you're not ready to move forward, you may continue this hearing from time to time until you're happy with what information you're getting. If the hearing is continued, then there won't be any new notice. This is a large district, and I don't think the auditor's office can send out postcards. Are probably a thing of the past, but the landowners there are just going to have to remember when the new hearing date is. That may not happen, but I want to let them know where it stands if it does happen. I'm going to attend the entire hearing via Zoom, so you can ask me questions at any time. Before I turn it over to the engineer, the other thing I wanted to say was that I am aware of one objection at least. I think that either Jackie, you, or Val, or the engineer should read that objection. If that landowner's there, he may read it. I'm aware of what it says, and basically what it's asking for is that there not be much disturbance to the land. That's just fine. We hire good contractors who post a bond, and they try not to be disturbing. I realize that there are many places along this ditch that are probably nice areas that involve some wildlife, some pasture, good outdoor areas, but that isn't why we have drainage ditches. We have drainage ditches to get rid of the water. We have too much water and we have to get rid of it. And trees, which grow along drainage districts, are not a friend to a drainage district. Trees have their roots that come into the facility. They shade the bank so the grass doesn't grow. There are a lot of things that happen with a tree and a drainage ditch, and I'll let the engineers explain that in greater detail. In fact, there is a code section that specifically says that the board is required to remove all obstructions from drainage ditches, including trees, hedges, or shrubbery, and the roots of them. So everything that's in our right of way is kind of fair game. We try not to disturb it too much, but we can't tolerate letting it go. It costs the district money, and it's not fair to the landowners who are in the district, and they're able to receive and understand what's called adequate drainage. So adequate drainage is what the engineer says is appropriate drainage. I don't want to harp on that too much, but we'll fully vet the objection when we get to it. The other thing for the board to consider today, if you move forward today on the report, engineer mentions this in his report, you need to fix an interest rate for this project. As I go around the state, oftentimes I run into counties and they say, well, we always use this interest rate. We just need to say it at your hearing so everybody knows what the current interest rate is. I think you might use 6%. Whatever you normally use is appropriate. The other thing you can do is, this is a large project. The engineer's estimate is it's like $1.5 million. That's a lot of money, and there might be some very large assessments. So the board is able to fix installment payments of not less than 10 nor more than 20 years for a landowner's assessment, if that assessment is more than $500. And that is useful, and it helps the landowners figure out whether or not it's a good deal or not. The landowner has to go into the auditor's office to make that election and to fill out some paperwork. But they can be properly advised. And so there is built-in financing in drainage projects, but the board needs to determine the interest rate and the number of years. Not less than 10, no more than 15. I don't think there's much else I should go through. Can the board members or engineers think of anything else you'd like to have me explain?
So I'm good. I've heard her many times, Jim, so.
I know some of you folks probably are close to memorizing this, and I'm certainly tired of talking about it, but it's important the landowners know. If they have other questions, Jackie has those outlines I've passed out in the past. Don't know if she can find them. If she needs them, I can email them over to her. But I decided not to do it today because it just adds some time and some additional discussion at your hearing, and I think you need to move forward today. So that's all for me. I'll turn it over to the engineers or Chairman Smeeby, if back to you.
All right, thanks, Jim. All right, go ahead.
Do we have the objection here to read?
3 of them.
Perfect.
And I just emailed another one to Jim Hudson. I don't have I'll have to.
Want the objections?
Yes, I've got 3 of them here.
Okay.
At the end. Okay. I'll get the other one printed down. Okay.
Good. Morning, everyone. My name is Colton Cunningham. I work for Bolton and May.
800,000.
All right.
All right, so my name is Colton Cunningham. I'm a design engineer with Bolton and May. I work with Jacob Hagan, and we both worked under John Rosengren, who's the signatory engineer on this project. I'm going to go through the report. Many of you got a copy of it, so if you want to follow along with me, I'm not going to touch on every single thing that's in the report. Just going to try to touch on the big pieces. And then we will read the objections and kind of address those and any other questions, comments, and concerns at the end. So introduction, this district is the second oldest district in Worth County, established in 1905. It's about 11,000 acres, which makes it fairly large. The larger a district is, the more forces are acting on it, the more complicated and interesting the drainage needs become. This district has seen 3 major cleanouts in its history, one in the 50s, one in the 70s, and one in 2003. Year's 2022 right now. That correlates pretty well with the maintenance schedule of the district in the past. And then, of course, this district was reclassified in 2019, which means that anything that the district needs to pay for will be based on that schedule, which is at the auditor's office. So if you want to see how your district or your parcel might be assessed, that's available at the auditor's office. That was done in 2019. So we received a petition for this ditch and for this district in April of 2021. We surveyed it that summer. Jacob and I were personally involved in the survey. 13 miles of open ditch, just the open ditches, several laterals that are tiles in the district that flow into the open ditch. We surveyed the open ditches. I'm going to go over kind of what we found, but when we do a survey, we survey tops of banks, bottoms of banks, and then if possible, we get in the ditch itself and sort of get a center line shot. And with those shots, we're finding out the amount of silt in the ditch, where the hard pans or where they historically dug out the ditch to. We're also noting any obstructions like dams, rock piles, things of that nature that are in the ditch. So through those surveys, we only surveyed the lower main and its facilities. So we found in the main open ditch, which this facility is about 8 miles long, most of the ditch is at or below grade. With stretches, 3,000-foot stretches that can sometimes have a foot or two of silt in them. This section of the ditch did have some areas of dense trees. And as Jim noted earlier, trees are an issue for drainage districts. The thing with trees is that they prevent our access, the district's access to the ditch for maintenance. They shade the ditch, so if they're too dense, grass will not grow. Grass is the best thing you can have to prevent erosion, which prevents future maintenance on the ditch. If grass isn't growing, you're going to go way out and have more erosion into the ditch. It also provides material for beavers, and dead trees that fall into the ditch can obstruct the ditch. And its roots, tree roots can also obstruct tiles that flow into the ditch. And so not only are you going to have a drainage issue, you're also going to have a gullying issue from when water overtops in those areas. So the district does have a 100-foot right-of-way that was purchased uniformly in the district in 2019. We usually recommend removing trees in that right-of-way. We should note that we do try to be unobtrusive, as Jim alluded to. But trees that are within the ditch itself and are preventative, the contractor getting in there and doing the work that he needs to do, are recommended to be removed. So the main tree growth and some meanders and sloughs, and then a foot of silt in some areas, but overall fair to poor condition, but not the worst thing. So it's an okay condition. Lateral A, there's another lateral we surveyed. It's about a half mile long. The last 900 feet or so had about a foot of silt that we recommend to be removed. Lateral D, because it was constructed too steeply, that caused a lot of erosion and meander issues. So we're recommending the installment of a rock drop structure. So that what that'll do is that'll flatten out the grade, which will give the lateral better long-term maintenance, and hopefully prevent it from meandering in the future. lateral H. This is the longest lateral that was probably dug. It's got a two-stage design to it, which is interesting. So what we found in survey is past upstream of 450th Street, it has about 2 feet of silt in it as well, to be removed. And then lateral M is, has 1 foot of silt, but it has good side slopes. It's in overall pretty good condition, just needs the bottom dipped out a bit. Ditch crossings on the ditch. There are a lot of crossings here. Did find 4 crossings that we call interfering crossings. These are crossings that are either above design grade or not sized properly to allow the flow of the ditch through. Two of the county crossings are too high, and we recommend them being lowered. That would cost, we estimate the county about $81,000 to lower those. And then 2 private crossings we also found to be interfering. One is undersized and the other is too high. And we can discuss options with those crossings with those landowners. But private crossings are the responsibility of the landowners themselves in the district that own the crossing. So there are sections about farm program compliance and water quality. If you have CRP in the district along the ditches, we do recommend reading that. There is things about permits that the district needs. They're the landowner's responsibility to get so that you are compliant with your farm program things when if work is done. For the proposed repair does involve cleaning out trees, cleaning out the ditch where necessary, removing trees where necessary. We usually work with 100-foot work limits within each side of the center line. So right of way is 100 feet. So that's 50 feet of center line. Work limits would be an additional 50 feet each side of center line. But again, we can work with you if you have trees in that area or if you've got concerns. You know, usually they don't use the entire 100 feet, but it is there for the contractor for their ease. But they usually keep it as tight as possible. So all told, the total construction cost estimated, and this includes construction costs, engineering costs, and then an estimate for interest. If landowners choose to pay their classifications over an extended period, I think the drainage warrants in Worth County are 6%. So all those costs added together, we estimate the cost of these repairs to be $1,564,000. And keep in mind that if you're on a lateral or you're not on a lateral, you're only paying for the section of the ditch that you directly contribute to. So if you're on just the main, you will be paying for contributing to the main based on that 2019 schedule. But if you're on lateral H, you'll be paying for lateral H, but you'll also be paying into the main because your water flow from lateral H flows into the main. So landowners who will not be paying for laterals that they are not on. So when we total up the construction costs, not the engineering costs, for these laterals, we find that the main, which is combined with branch 1, lateral D and lateral M, estimated cost of $892,000. Lateral A, estimated cost of $29,700, and lateral H, an estimated cost of $217,000. All told, the $1.5 million number that I stated earlier, that comes out to an average of $142 an acre. And again, the classification schedule filed at the auditor's office does show how, as a percentage, how much each parcel is assessed. So that number will vary. Some people will be paying 2 to 3 times that. Some people will be paying much less than that, depending on how much they benefit, their parcel benefits from the drainage district. Does anyone have any questions? Or we can move on to the objections? Any other comments? Jacob? Yes.
So right now, we owe Bolton and Meg how much right now? Let's say nothing else happens. I mean, how much we owe you guys?
Jacob, do you have that number?
The survey study report, meeting and hearings are about $90,000.
90,000. So if the project goes through, how much more are we gonna owe you guys?
We have estimated here at 10,000 for construction plans and 50,000 for construction services. Additional,
So additional 60,000.
additional 60,000.
So we got everything in here that needs to be done, correct?
Right, yes.
So do we need you guys anymore?
I mean, we make sure that the work gets done as it's specified to be done.
Yeah, we would handle the bid letting
Can't hear you.
and the bid letting, so hiring the contractor.
But can the county, can the supervisors do that?
If the county wanted to take it
Yeah,
on,
if the county
they could.
wants to do it, county engineer's office would probably be the ones that have to handle that. So you'd have to hire the county engineer office to do it. Which would be, if he wants to be hired,
Right.
county engineer's office. And then we provide the staking for the contractor. That's the majority of the 50,000 is the staking.
I'm saying we got a county engineer that can read this book, right? So he can handle this.
If he wants to. He has the,
There is labor in terms of being out there inspecting construction, and then also the staking, as Jacob mentioned, is a huge portion of it. And that's physically going out, hammering in lath, and so the contractor knows exactly how much he's taking out or what he's doing as he's going along the ditch.
Now, I'm just asking, can our county engineer handle that?
It's
Yes.
not a hydrologist.
I mean,
I don't know if that matters or not, but
you can ask him if he wants to take it on. Most county engineers don't want to do drainage work.
Yeah.
That's
So
why we
who
do
hired
us.
you guys? Did the county hire you guys,
Supervisors did.
the supervisors?
Acting as trustees for the drainage district. It's a separate role than the board of supervisors. They are also in charge of the drainage district by default. Jim would probably be able, do you want to explain, Jim, the legal difference between board of supervisors and board of trustees?
Yes. And that's in my old drainage 101 outline, but at any rate, when the trustee, when the supervisors act in drainage, they take their supervisor hats off and they put on trustee hats. They're required by the drainage code to be trustees. And what they actually do is a little different. A trustee, if any of you are familiar with trusts, makes decisions and manages the trust for the benefit of the beneficiaries of the trust. You landowners are the beneficiaries of the trust. So that is the role that they play in drainage. To go back to what comments I had heard is that whenever the trustees get a petition, they are required by the drainage code to hire a competent engineer. That engineer is required by the code to make a survey. You heard them talk about the surveying, and it doesn't necessarily mean to measure the land. It means to survey the people to see what the concerns are. They make a survey and an investigation. They put those results into a written report and they file the written report with the auditor, and the auditor presents it to the supervisors. That has all been done, and I think those reports have been handed out at this hearing or they've been available at the courthouse. That report is really the property of the drainage district and can be used now or in the future. There was a question as to whether or not the Worth County engineer couldn't finish the project. I got called into Worth County several years ago together with Don Etler of Bolton and Mink. And what had happened in Worth County was they relied upon the county engineer for a long, long time. And the county engineer didn't have much interest in drainage or experience or knowledge. So you got in trouble. There was a lot to fix and clean up in Worth County because of that. But if the engine, I deal with counties all over the state, and very, very few county engineers dive into drainage very deeply. Bill Waddingham, in a different area, but close to you folks, was a county engineer that really enjoyed drainage. And he did a lot of work in drainage, but he's retired. He's up in, wasn't Hancock County, I think was his last county. He was very good. But there aren't many county engineers that are hydrologists or have any experience whatsoever with drainage. So I'm not saying you don't ask him, but I don't know who the engineer is now. I haven't talked to him for a while, but the former engineer didn't want anything to do with it. And he was tired of his office getting involved in it. So I don't know what other issues came up, but I think, Mr. Chairman, does that kind of cover what you had in mind?
I think so.
Yeah. And to reiterate, the report is the property of the district. And so if at any point you guys wanted to use a different engineer to complete the rest of the work, that would be completely your freedom.
Is there any other questions? Go ahead.
Who's having drainage problems that we decide to spend 90,000 to survey the whole drainage district?
Well, there's quite a bit of stuff in there. There's been several beaver dams removed. There's been some siltation problems that have been noted.
I guess I haven't heard
Yeah.
anybody complain about drainage issues out our way.
Yeah, it all started.
A petition.
As a petition. Yeah.
Somebody signed a petition.
Back in. Somebody who? Yeah. That was back in when?
It was April of 2021, the petition was filed, and I didn't see the petition personally. I don't know who signed
Right.
it, but. Yes,
You
sir.
can't tell us who signed it? Can you cancel my $27,000 cost then?
Well, nothing's that.
Let me address that, Mr. Chairman.
Yep, go ahead.
Part of that 101 that I present is it doesn't matter who signs the petition. All the petition is doing is calling to the attention of the trustees that there are problems with the drainage. Trees, sandbars, siltation, slow drainage, all those different issues. So the engineer goes out and inspects everything and makes a report. And the engineer has found in this report all of the different issues. I have been involved in drainage projects before when the person who signed a petition, after he got the engineer's report, decided he didn't want it. But it doesn't matter. Once the petition leaves the petitioner, it becomes a property of the drainage district, and the petition is recorded in permanent records. Hope that doesn't dance around your comment, but that's what happens with drainage.
A individual can petition and put what this would be an economic hardship on hundreds of people, correct?
Well, there's been other things involved besides the petition. There's been beaver dam removal and.
Well, yeah, that's
part of us knowing that there's problems with the district, Doug, and being required by law, that's what we did. We moved ahead with this.
But
And that's why we had
But the
reclassification. We did all
individual,
that.
if they hadn't petitioned, you guys would have just kept cleaning out beaver dams and then letting the trees grow and stuff.
Technically,
And it
no,
put it on us.
technically, we're not supposed to. No,
I thought you were trustees.
we are. But
So what do
when
you-
we know there's an issue, we're supposed to address it. And that's what we did.
The petitioner, I think, had a certain area that she was concerned about. And if we could take care of that certain area, I think that would keep her satisfied. And if we could have got that done right away, we might not all be sitting here after spending $100,000 with these guys. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If we could have found specifically what she wanted to do, take care of that problem. that problem could have been solved. Wouldn't have had to hire engineers. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe if there's a dollar amount where we can't control, it has to be engineered.
So anything more than 50,000.
So once it hits above that, it's kind of out of our hands according to law, so. Otherwise, we try to do that to get repairs done below that $50,000 threshold. So,
Spot repairs are pretty common with districts this size. But what we do find is once you reach a certain size, it makes more sense to look at the entire district because it's a system. If one part of the district, say upstream, has too much silt in it, that's gonna cause problems downstream. So it is economical in a lot of ways to repair the entire ditch, or at least all of the parts of the ditch that require repair all at once. As opposed to spot cleaning every so often.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
In Jim's opening statement, he said it's required to be repaired to original efficiency and capacity.
Correct.
In your findings, it says we're at or near original capacity. You stated that silt trees and beavers can cause issues. Why can't we just fix what is causing the issue? Are we at a want here or are we at a need?
So parts of the main are at capacity. Many of the laterals are not. And then while you're here, like if there's a foot of silt in a stretch of 3,000 feet of the main ditch and you have a contractor hired, it is more efficient to go and repair it as it goes. It's not a whole lot more money to ask them to repair, a stretch of ditch when they're already on site, already mobilized to do it. And that would bring it back to its full design efficiency. So yeah, parts of the open main are in pretty good condition and wouldn't necessarily need to be cleaned out. And lots of the open main won't be cleaned out per se. But it's also the district's responsibility to keep the ditch clear of trees and to keep it running optimally the entire system. And the laterals are in poor condition, as mentioned in the report.
Second question is, how are the county crossings off? You said some are too high, some are too low. Did the code change? or
It's not
did it
too
get
low.
Screwed up when it started.
So the district has original plans that go back to when they built it, right? And some of these don't make it through all the way to the present. I'm not sure that the county always looks at these.
Yeah, that's what probably was more than likely was the county engineer, when he placed this culvert, didn't go back and look at what, he set it where it seemed right, but there was a foot or two of silt on top of that bottom of that design ditch. So then when you come and clean it out, now he's 2 foot too high. That's what we typically see. It's actually pretty common that we find that the county culverts are higher than what the design ditch was, just because they're setting it based on what it is now. County engineers, like said, their drainage districts aren't their number one priority. So they don't tend to, they kind of forget about them when they're placing culverts at times.
So the original request came from, in June of 21, came from Gordy Hagan, Gus Hagan, and David Hengstead.
That's not true. David Hengstead did not sign that petition.
Your name's
Put that
on
on record right now.
it. It's right here. And it was to clean, it wasn't to clean, what it was for was to clean from Highway 35 east to the structure, clean out and remove.
No.
Structure roughly 100 feet.
You want David Hengstead to come up there and sign his name on there and compare that to the signature that's on there?
I don't know who signed it.
I didn't sign it.
there must be one.
You got a
before
stack
this,
of
though, that
Bibles, I'll
started back
swear
in
on it.
19.
Yeah, I doubt Gus will be
The 19 reclassification, the classification report prior to this was really poor shape. So I think the board at that time just asked us to do a reclassification.
So there was no petition back
There was,
then.
and there doesn't need to be a petition. The board acting as trustees and move forward without a petition because they are required to keep it in repair. So they can move forward even without a petition.
About a good chunk of the districts in the county were done all at once at that time, right? It was in bulk, the reclasses.
No, but we did do several.
Yeah.
We did do several at that time.
Get back to that petition. I did not sign. I got a stack of Bibles.
I'm just saying that's what's on here, David. I'm not saying you did or didn't. You
just read-
asked the question.
You just read my name off.
Oh, it's on here. So
What am I telling you? I'll come up there. You wanna compare signatures?
it's not a court of law, so
Huh?
it's not a court of law,
Okay,
and it
let's get
doesn't,
this.
there's still issues with the
David Higginson did not sign that.
fine. Put it in.
Let me, can I enter right here?
Yes,
I don't
Gordon.
want to get involved here,
Go ahead.
but I've been to some of these meetings here over the past. And we had a meeting, we have dozen people here, 15, and everybody wants it. When it comes to money, nobody wants it. All I wanted at the meeting, some of the meeting was, there's no free thing as free water, upstream, bottom stream, everybody's gotta pay their way in. I understand that, I think everybody does. But it all comes down to money. And that petition, I had Gus Hagan sign it, me sign it, and asked David to sign it. He didn't, wasn't do it, but he said he was for it. But I did not ask for the clean the ditch. All I asked was, and you know this maybe,
Yeah, it's,
that Jay, what I wanted is that we had meetings in here and we had kennels here and they dug this ditch back 50, 60 years ago because there was an old county main in there. It was too small, too shallow. They wanted to bring more water into acres into production. So they turned around and said they put their own ditch in. They paid for it themselves up to the Interstate 35. That's correct?
Yep.
And then they wanted compensation for it. Well, they got their reward the last 10, 20 years since it was dug, because they got it deeper, they got tile in it, they got crops off it. And then we had this meeting, and all I asked you on that deal was to go out there and we reclassified this land by this company about 2 years ago. We spent $50,000 to reclassify it to make sure everybody was paying in their share to it. And I asked you to go over there, and I asked Mike Abrams to come over here for $500. I could have hired him out of my own pocket, took that dam out that the Tennels put in, because they had a fight over here. They didn't want the Donald Hagan's land and all that up above. That we didn't want to pay for it.
Just remember, a tunnel is sitting here,
That's know it, but I'm just telling it the way it is.
okay?
Can I get done finishing, then you can have the floor?
Yep.
So I turned around and went there and asked Spavey to petition to take that out. And he says, I'll take care of it, because by law, I'm supposed to do it. I could have took that 10 out. Now the district is in, we're all in it together, upper, lower, and all this stuff. By law, I got a right to talk about this.
Yep.
And I turned around and nothing was done. And all I asked was to clean that dam out. So if you took that, what it was, the reason that dam was put in, because the people up above on the west side of the interstate didn't want to pay. They said they didn't need it. They didn't want it. Fine. They have that right. I turned around and wanted that dam out, because now we all went to spend $50,000 to have it all reorganized to clean, take that dam out. And you said by law, you have to do it. Nothing ever happened. I could have took that
No, I
dam out
didn't.
for $500 and did it all in my pocket.
I don't think I said.
So don't
that
put the
law.
blame on me now.
No, I'm
I'm
not
spend $2
blaming,
million.
I'm not blaming you. What I said, the original.
And I tell you, let me finish.
Yep.
Right now, we take that dam out. Everybody up above, including David Hingerston, on our lateral there would work out fine. Because we got 2 feet of fall. You know what 2 feet of fall is down there? And if everybody would clean their own dam, spray their ditch like Abby, they wouldn't cut their own trees down. Took care of it. We got these other people let the trees and the brush because they like the wildlife. And we're all wrong.
No,
Finish,
I'm
let me
not,
finish here.
I didn't disagree
This
with you.
point's here. And I did not ask to clean to spend $2 million for all this. All I wanted to take that beaver dam out.
Yep, and I'm not
And I-
saying you did.
And nothing ever happened.
Yep. All I said was.
And if
that's
right
original-
now, you got my
original.
opinion, this controversy, that's why there's so many people here.
Yep.
Take that dammer out, and everybody on the west side of the interstate on that lateral would take care of their problems good. So it's gonna get overloaded down below. I guess that's the way it be. People, the rest of them are gonna have to decide if they want it or not. I've told you, I don't repeat myself. I was to the meetings here before, and we should have had this many people here. We had 8, 10 people here, and we left the meeting, and you were here. Nobody wanted to spend no money. That's fine. Everybody got that right here. But don't come with that
No,
petition that I started. I did not
No,
start.
I didn't say it had anything to do
You
with
did. You
cleaning the
said I
whole ditch.
petitioned for it.
What I read was exactly what you said. You wanted to. clean
I
from
turned around and
35.
wanted the beaver dam out. Nothing ever happened
It's not
because
the beaver.
you
Oh,
said,
oh, the
we're gonna
beaver dam.
wait this big deal coming. I didn't know what you're talking about. Now I find out what the big deal's about.
You're talking about the structure that.
I'm talking, that's all I asked for.
Yeah.
I want to
And that's-
clarify
that's
that. I
kind
did
of
not
what-
ask for that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what triggered the whole thing. We, at
Pardon?
the end, it's kind of what triggered the whole thing. We had the engineer look at it and at that time they told us to wait. till they
Well,
got
that
done
wasn't
with the
my
whole
decision.
project.
Did Miss
Yes,
Carol Abbey, did she petition?
I don't think so.
I thought, Jackie, didn't you tell Scott Matson she petitioned it?
No, I didn't say that.
Well, that's what Scott told me.
Mhm.
I think, as far as I know, they just went in and cleaned up themselves, the trees,
Yeah,
took the
they
trees
took the
down.
trees out themselves, but
That's what they should do.
She
Everybody
never
should do
asked,
this.
I mean, she never asked me or anything.
I thought,
Not that I know, David. It's possible, but I don't know. It's not part of the record anyway.
because I thought that's what got this whole thing ball rolling.
No, there's been other, I mean, issues of removing beaver dams and things like that.
Right.
It's just all part of the process. Once we reclassified it too, we knew there was issues.
I think we got two of the biggest there's two big tree problems on this project. Starting on Mallard. It's the, what's his name? Hetman's. From there, through his property. And then you jump into Schroeder's.
Yep.
And then you got some of Tasker's.
Okay.
That's one big tree problem. And then you got the Stevens Farm, which is on the north side of Abby's, the two biggest tree problems we got. Which I think should be taken care of.
So we could break this down into pieces is what you're saying. I mean, or what,
So it can be broken down into pieces.
sections or whatever.
Where you bid it multiple jobs, you're talking,
Well,
or you're not doing it all at one time, kind of a thing. You can do that, you tend to,
your cost is gonna be as much.
yeah, your
as mine.
cost is gonna be just as much
Eventually.
or more by the time you've got different contractors coming in.
Yep.
You're gonna have a bid letting inspection on that one, plus contractor on that one. You've already got to mobilize, usually get better prices when you do it as one big project.
So let's say we got these laterals. And the people on lateral H all get together, decide what they want to do. Can the people on lateral A decide, agree on what they want to do and what they don't want to do?
So at this point, we've already got the report recommending repairs. I think lateral H was in pretty poor shape. That was, I think, the poorest shape of all of them. And anyone on lateral H only pays for lateral H. Or if you're on lateral H, you pay for lateral H. If you're not on lateral H, you don't pay for lateral H.
What I'm saying,
Could they,
all the members of lateral H, let's say we all get together. Find out the complaints, figure out what we want to do. And what we don't want to do, if we don't want to go by what you say in this book. If we all agree, come in and get it approved by you guys. Here's what we want to do. You know, because it's lateral H is $103 an acre plus the main. Why can't we decide what we want to do?
your lateral H will be over 50,000, whatever you decide to do.
Well, not necessarily. You're saying that, you're not on lateral H. I'm saying the landowners get together.
I would say for the tree clearing alone, I think we estimated 20.
Right, the tree, that's the biggest problem, and then dipping them.
Jim, you wanna explain that? I mean to interrupt you, but Jim, if you wanna explain that, even if the landowners act as trustees themselves, they still are supposed to take it back and to original specs, correct?
Yes. The landowners don't make the decision. They can suggest what they would like, but the Board of Supervisors makes the decision.
Right.
This is an organized drainage district and it is governed by the supervisors. If the landowners don't like the supervisors doing it, they can hold an election to elect 3 trustees, and trustees can then govern a trustee district. This is very large, and trustee districts are usually used like over on both rivers. They don't function very well because the trustees don't meet regularly and don't have a good understanding. But landowners can't go in and do any work whatsoever. The drainage district has an exclusive right of way and they manage that exclusively. You could no more take a jackhammer out on Interstate 35 and chunk out a bad area of cement and repair it. The DOT would just go crazy. So you have to abide by that. Landowners cannot do their own work in drainage districts and should not do their own work. If you go out and work in that ditch, you're trespassing. And if you ruin it in any way, you can be subject to a lawsuit to pay for damages. So do not do that. I know it occurs all over the state, but it's not right. And I can understand you're frustrated, but that's why we hold hearings, to hear your views. And the supervisors listen to those things and they react accordingly. It's our system that we have. The other suggestion is, if you don't like the system, then get a hold of your legislators and change it. But this drainage code has been in operation since about 1905. And we have roughly 120 years of very good drainage in the state of Iowa. It works well and has. Does that cover it a little bit? A little better?
Yes. Thanks, Jim. Didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Oh, no, it's okay. I don't remember where I was.
But if we split this, if you split it into projects.
So what I did a large ditch about this size last year. And we did split that one up. We split it though, as we did tree clearing and all dirt removal as one project. And then we haven't got to stage 2 yet, where we're doing all the pipes that come into the ditch. We decided to do it that way because of COVID, there were supply chain issues with metal pipes. But that is an option if you'd want to break the job up. That's how I would recommend doing it, instead of trying to break it up and let's do this little piece here and then let's track down another half mile and do this guy's piece.
See, I don't think anybody objects, or I don't anyway, as far as maintaining the ditches and having them. I mean, you need that. Otherwise, why have tile? Okay, but with that, it's the economic hardship that puts on somebody, that all of a sudden you get in the mail this $100 or $120 or whatever it is, that it's gonna cost you on 100 acres or 200 acres or whatever. That's a blow. And that's the thing that you gotta look at, the human element as far as these people along here. I don't think anybody would complain one bit about getting it cleaned out if it could be done prudently and in steps perhaps.
So would a better option be, obviously there's a finance option to this.
Oh, big one.
No less than 10, no more than 20 years. Would it be better to do the project now, break it out over 20 years, or would it be better to take it in pieces, start now, 5 years later, take the next step, 5 years later, take the next step? I mean, you know, it's your guys' money. I hate this part because we're spending your money, you know, to make this right. So with you guys, what do you think? Would it be better to just, if you can't, it's a lot of money to write a check today to cover your expense. If it's financed out, would that be better, or would it be better to go in stages of like that, you know?
I think you go in stages, because if you do 6% for 10 years, 20 years, 100 years, it's still money out. I mean, you're paying double or triple or whatever. And so I think it'd be more manageable in my eyes anyway, to do it in stages and let's get it cleaned out.
Right. I mean, if cleaning it out is the end goal, when you do it in stages, you do invariably raise the amount of money overall.
Yeah.
But that's just something to keep in mind as you guys consider that.
And that's the question, is that cost gonna offset the 6% interest? Or not, you know, we want to get it done right. We want to do it as obviously as feasible as we can for you guys.
You guys have to investigate that. Let us know.
Okay, I want to address, I think it's lateral H, I'm not certain. but it goes up to Interstate 35. And goes across. When the Interstate 35 the road wasn't there, the engineers came out and they took the elevations. The limiting factor on H on the west side is the depth of the cross. It goes into an open ditch. And the open ditch is 2 foot too high, it should be lowered. And the reason they put it, because they put it back to the original standard, and the original standard was because it was dammed back up by a 2 foot man-made put into there to hold the water back. And it wasn't part of the drainage district on the west side, so they got by with that. Now, if you turn around and go down and fix it all, ain't gonna help us. And we just put in a new main there, all of us guys on the west side, the lateral. And Abraham's put it in, and we got minimum grade, 1/10. And you understand grade, or grade in gallons and size, the tile, how much water flow. And that thing should have been down a foot. And it goes in from me, across to Dave Hengestead, and we had a hard time getting under the gas lines, because different elevations, we've been down deeper, we could have went underneath 5-0. You guys, if you all checked this all out, you know what engineering deal, know what I'm talking about, but maybe you don't. So that raised the water 2 foot, you turn around and lower the thing down, the water will get on a heavy rain, but it couldn't get our tile in deep enough. Gus Hagan farms the Donald Hagan's land, he's got minimum grade back in there, minimum. And that was all screwed up, and the highway commission put it under the road, so the only way you can correct that is bore underneath the 105. Or 35, excuse me, 35, to get it deeper. That's the mistake made way back in 1950, when that 55 was the 35, I don't know when it was 35 went in. 60s, when did the 35?
Late 60s, early 70s.
60 and 70, a mistake, it should have been deeper, but it was engineered out to the old system. And the old system did not take into consideration, because on the west side of 35, that wasn't part of the drainage district. That drainage district was brought in later, I don't know what years that was, deals here.
I think it was always part of the drainage district already, but there was.
Yeah, I know, but
there
it
was
was
a group of people
geared
that
to
got
the
together
elevations of the
and
old
did
ditch.
some stuff. Yeah,
And the
no,
old
I,
ditch was geared up. Then they privately dug the ditch deeper, and why did they do that? Because they wanted a better outlet. But it did not help us on the west side of the drainage ditch to get a better outlet. Only advantage we got there is the water don't back up under 35 on the open culvert that goes under the road.
that's probably a prime example where people get together and do something themselves without either engineering or legal advice was probably wrong. It was probably done wrong. then.
Out of necessity.
Out of necessity. I won't argue that, yeah. But
So it's very important now to keep it clean. So it doesn't back up. It is backing up on the west side, east side of Interstate 35. It works now, but if there any more silt comes in there. And that's that's the problem here. And as engineers, they've been all checked all this, they should know all that. I don't know if you do or not.
Right.
Probably
So-
new slant.
Right, so.
I would assume recommending removal of that structure and, but other than lowering the pipes on Interstate 35, you're saying?
Well, they're not gonna go along with it. The highway commission will not do it.
No, probably not.
You wanna talk about red tape, just try that one.
It was put in too high.
So we
Well,
do,
it put in because the backed up of the old structure,
Yeah.
of the old ditch. Old ditch.
that upper end of laterally, we recommend about 2 feet to be removed.
Still,
So
If you go east of the interstate on that ground, I think that one pipe, you got a pipe that's in there. That's too long. Could be-
So that should be relayed about 2 feet lower as well. And there's the county road crossing as well to be lowered. There on 450th Street. We
Do
met.
you have different classifications for where work has been done privately on a ditch? It's been cleaned out. Paid for by that individual. Now it's been handed over to the county. That we shouldn't receive some kind of an exemption since we did our own maintenance prior to this happening. And if you want to look at black and white, you look at our side of the ditch and you look at Abby's. It's a jungle on that side. And our side is clean. And I don't hear anything about how you should assign expenses based on present condition.
So I'm not from around here, so I don't know where's Abby's?
We're on H.
Yes,
Yeah.
where's Abby's upstream of you or?
She's,
On Water H, it's between, Channels and, Stevens Farm.
So just north of 450.
Okay, yeah, I remember.
Our ditch is the one
I
that's
remember
being
seeing
talked
that.
about going under the interstate.
I remember surveying that ditch. There is no, so the classification schedule is designed to last for 100 years. The old
And
one was there.
and it was reclassified last year.
And it was reclassified, so we do not take into consideration present condition, if somebody did a good job taking out their trees or somebody else did.
Because there was pressure given and it was even asked of the Abbeys, do you want to participate? While we clean our side, do you want to get in on this? And they just, no.
Mhm.
So that's how stark the contrast is.
Yeah, and yeah, it's kind of Jim talked about, if it's a drainage district facility, it's a drainage district facility to clean it. So that, you cleaned it yourself. But it's not that everyone else is required also to maintain it within their stretch. It's the drainage district as a whole is required to clean.
So in a way, we'll be paying for that twice.
So you will be paying for that twice. Yes.
so let's go back to how do we pay for that twice?
So I think there was talk about, AJ mentioned, and there's the do everything now option for 1.564 million, do it all and finance it over 20 years. And whatever, are you guys thinking 6% interest or?
That's
I think that's what we're at, right?
Okay. Or do you break it up into smaller pieces and do it over? You do, what I would recommend, if you're gonna break it up, your first step would be do all the tree clearing and all the dirt removal. Do that all as one big piece. That way the ditch is all cleaned out, you get a dirt work contractor come in, he gets the whole thing down to grade, gets all the sloughs. And then the second part would be just to have someone come in and do pipe replacement. And that's the little pipes, all the tile outlets that are outletted into it. The pipe, we recommend replacement of those as part of this as a part of the project for the overall health of the ditch. And if you break it up, I have to double check, but I know in the last ditch we did that way, it was about half the money was pipe, half the money was actually dirt. So you cut it in two. You take 1.6 and the 800,000.
I think we need to have this put in some type of report or something explaining this for everybody, what you're suggesting here.
We could write a letter.
Yeah, we could write a letter report real
And I think we.
great,
could
and we could
table
actually
it.
come up with that dollar amount for that. What the pipe versus just the dirt would be.
Right.
So you, in that situation, you clean the main and all the laterals, doing the trees and whatever needs to be done, the tree removal and so.
If we clean everything, but the tile outlets would be held.
And breaking it up that way is superior hydraulically than
Than
doing
trying-
your dirt work piecemeal.
Good.
Yeah, and trying to do it, we're just gonna do lateral H today. You're better off just having one big contractor. Cause if you got 20 cubic yards where they're like 150,000 cubic yards, that's a large enough number that you're gonna have a contractor, a big dirt guy's gonna be interested in this.
And these are just estimates from you guys, right? So
Doing an RFP.
All these prices are estimates.
crossing our fingers, it could be lower than this.
Good.
There's a question.
I got a question on your report. You said on the main open ditch, it says the investigation found the main open ditch flow line to be at or near the design flow line for nearly its entire length. Why are we talking about cleaning the main ditch if that's your?
With tree removal.
It'd be mostly tree removal on the open ditch. And then there is some spots, I mean, we did come up with 130,000 cubic yards. There is spots where it gets up to about a foot or two of silt. There's areas that
At or near design flow line, sounds like we don't have an issue other than some trees in there.
It is an 8 mile long ditch, so I mean, to have a half-mile stretch where there's a foot of silt isn't terribly, it's not in terrible condition for the overall course of the ditch.
It seemed like there was kind of parts where it was high and then it would come back to flow line. So there would be.
So
Yes, sir.
you asked for objections. I'm gonna give you a list of people. Bear with me. Merle Aussie, Carol Abby. Kenneth Abrams Trust, Gerald and Betty Brunville. This is just the people I've talked to. Lorna Christensen, Diamond Joe Casino. Mike and Deborah Gaskell, Gary Gordon. H&K Propane, Donald Hagan. Gus Hagan. Keith and Stephanie Harmon. Blair Hangesteg, David Hangesteg, David C. Hangesteg. David and Sue Hangesteg and Sue Johnson. Truman Hangesteg. Chad Brian Nichols. Jennifer Johnson. Norman Barb Johnson. Sue Johnson. Joseph Farms. Levi and Verna Kaufman. Doug and Gretchen Kingland. Edward Kingland. Jim Kingland. KSP. Paulsons. Carol Edgedall. Ron and Linda Loken. Ronald M. Loken Trust. Christopher Lau. Matson Earl Trust. Scott Indiana Matson. Andrew Matson. Patrick Mathis and Nancy. Dean and Deborah Mueller. Brian Nelson and Crystal. Kevin Nelson. Robert Nelson. Dylan and Tyler Nitcher. Harold Quisley. Randall Transit Mix. Dan and Julie Robb. Christopher Rugland and Addie. Christopher Rugland. Marilyn Severson, Scott and Tammy Severson. Brian Syme, Dale Syme. Randy and Sandra Syme. Oh.
Probably haven't got my name on there. You stopped at my
You were
place.
never home. I came to see you 3 times.
Well, I told you I was home.
Name signed. Eldora Steve. Dana Steinman. Jonah Tasker. I'll add Gordon Hagan in there. John and Mary Tennell. Karen Tennell. Russ, Renee Tennell. And 100% of the people that I talked to signed this thing.
We
That's
should,
all.
we
I
should
haven't
adjourn the
talked-
meeting.
Everybody. that talked, not opposed to theirs. Or
I can't hear.
by the time you get the rest of them, what's my odds on there? If I'm 100% on everybody that talked to it. Rest of what's my odds? 90%. We need repair, everybody here says we need some repairs done, but we need to go toe, head to toe. That's what we need to decide as a group.
Well, by the time you started, you're gonna be
Right.
at the toll, aren't you?
It's over 800 and some thousand of the 1.2 that I've talked to.
So I guess I think the question is then we need to discuss is the cost benefit to doing it in stages versus doing the whole boat and taking the interest, taking the installments over 20 years. To see what would work better for you. Is that correct? Obviously, everybody says work needs to be done. And it always, this is the part it always comes to. So if we can find a, I guess, happy medium in there, and then we'll have another hearing again. Would that be sufficient with you folks?
I could see getting the trees. Like I said, I don't know anybody that's having real drainage issues to speak of. I mean, I don't see any flooded fields out there. Yeah, we need to get the trees out to prevent it in the future, but to start cleaning the whole works from top to bottom, yeah, I don't think it needs to be done.
I mean, you need to dip 6 inches, maybe 2, if you got 2 feet. Probably.
How far do you want to spread this out? How many years you want this to?
I have a question in the back there.
Any idea?
I don't know, but there's just some figures on here.
David.
It's,
We have a question in the back there, Dave, sorry.
it's just crazy up for what some people gotta pay.
Go ahead, sir.
It's their livelihood.
I think everyone agrees some work needs to be done, but it's kind of like changing your oil. You drain out what the old stuff and put in the new stuff. You don't put in a new motor. I mean, take care of what the problems are and let's move on.
You've got questions there.
Mr. Chairman, do you have an objection? This is David Segrist from Brent. Do you have an objection there from Todd and Renee Hopner that I signed on their behalf?
Yep.
Okay, I just want to make sure you got that objection of record. And then when you're ready to discuss it,
We just kind of, David did, so let's get the ones that were officially sent.
Again.
No, let's get the ones that were officially sent to us. I guess.
Right here, right now. Can I have the floor a little bit here?
Yeah, go ahead.
David, I'll tell you what I'll do. Everybody on the west side of the interstate, 35. I will hire Abrams. And I'll take that structure out. And we're good to go. And it won't cost nobody on the west side one dime, but I'll pay for it. Structure out. Now, the rest of them here in the room, if they want the main claim, fine. I don't need the main deal. Yeah, I don't need any of it. The trees could grow down there if they don't want to fix it. All I'll do is take care of me. And taking care of me, I will turn on and take that structure and clean it from there up to the ditch and pay for it. And then I'll work on Gus and Dave Hengis' conscience if they want to contribute. If they don't want to contribute, fine.
I'm not losing any sleep, Gordy.
Okay, that's all you, hey, you can put that on record right now. We don't have to go any further. We don't have to get together, the whole group of us, and have a meeting here. We just have our, I just solved the meeting.
Well,
No
that
problem.
still opens up a legal question, and I mean, it'd have to be done according to, I mean, if you're
Can't even give
just
3
removing the
months away.
structure, I mean, and I know that's what you wanted, I mean, but we can't just go in and touch it, we legally can't do it even as trustees until it's
Well, that's
been
what
looked
we're
at.
meetings are for.
Right, exactly, and I
But not to
appreciate
put
you.
this in here, $2 million here. That's not what I petitioned at all. You know that.
No, I never intend. I
You
never said
turned
that.
around and told me to get that petition.
Yep.
I just want to mention that if you've taken the time to go through this, and I appreciate what Dave's done. If you go through this and you take the names and you add the values, you're talking about sending bills out for a couple $100, up to 40 or 50,000 for some of us.
Yeah.
I want everybody to know that this isn't nickel and dime shit.
True.
I can give you a list. I'll give you the highest, but
You-
I got 100 acres, which 40 of it is building site awards. My part is 17,000. David rents my farm. I don't think I can raise rent high enough to pay that. No, lower.
I'll raise it.
So, I have 2 different fields and it's 4 sections, and every one of them is different. And I don't understand, closer to the ditch costs me more than if you live 3 miles away from it.
Yes, so that would have been the reclassification in 2020 or 2019. How we've been doing, how reclass has been done since about the 50s, when they reclassify a district to determine how much each parcel pays. What's been used is 4 factors. And the first factor that's used is the use, and that's how much of the facility do you use. So the farther up, so if you're right at the bottom of the facility, like the outlet of it, where it ends, you're gonna pay less than someone who's way far up at the upper end. Because that person at the outlet didn't need that ditch dug all the way back behind them. They don't care what happens behind them.
Well, I'm at the end of it.
So that factors for why one of the factors why you're be higher than average. The other factor that we use is proximity to the ditch. So that's how close you are to the ditch itself. Because if your farm is on the ditch, you have the access to be able to tile right to it. So you don't have to talk to your neighbor about putting a tile through his property to get to the ditch. You can just tile directly to it. So you're gonna pay more than someone who's a couple miles away from the ditch and needs help tile to it. The third factor is the soil wetness. And for that, we just use the NRCS soil survey maps. They've classified all the different soils in the state of Iowa. They've classified them based on how wet they are. So your wet soils, your heavy clay, like Okoboji soils are gonna pay more than your lighter hilltop soils because they need drainage more. That's probably where the land that you've got tile and that's going to that ditch, as opposed to your high ground that's drier. There's some benefit to having a ditch that gets your water away, but it's significantly less than your heavier soils. So those three factors are probably what's affecting most of the ground in there. That's what's affecting most of your ag land. The next factor we use only really affects hard surface areas. And we don't include acreages as part of that. But like on this particular one, the casino was hit with a factor on top of that because it's a hard surface that water is designed to shed off of it. So they, I think, paid a factor like, I think we took theirs times 260% of whatever it came back from those original factors. We hit them again with another factor. And the roads also got hit, so the interstate got hit with that, not to the same degree. But that would have been, those are the four factors for how the classification was determined.
How about the water treatment plant? They dump, I don't know how many gallons.
They would have been the same as or they would have been hit as well. I don't remember what percentage increase they were hit at.
They put more water in that ditch in a year than my land does.
Yeah, and I don't remember, I know we hit them with a percentage increase based on that, because we had the information for that. We were given that information. I remember getting that from, I think it was from you guys, because it's county people service. Yeah, so we were able to factor that in, that they were putting out so many gallons a day, and we were able to equate that back, what that would have been. So we did hit them with an increased assessment as well. And now, yeah, that would have been at that hearing in 2020, which I know a little while ago.
Well, one more note about this thing. I'm the highest on the main paying. Paralegal's 52,000. Anyway, Norm Johnson, third and fourth highest. He never got notified. I want to know what's going on there.
Should have.
He never knew nothing about it until the guy that I know called him and told him about it. Knew nothing about it. I know two other people I called, never got nothing. Lost in the mail. I mean, people were never informed. If we'd have got these sheets in the mail, when you mail out the other letters, this room would be plumb full. I mean, just a little complaint. If this would have got out in the mail instead of just names.
And I didn't have these figures yet when I mailed out for.
Well, I should have never mailed out the original letter then. Because people don't know. When I go around to see people, they have no idea what's what.
To be honest, normally, nobody would know until after the project is completed.
Yeah,
We
see,
reclassified it ahead of
If
time.
we didn't go around and get all this stuff. And nobody showed up to this meeting. I mean, it's your guys' job to say, I understand that's your guys, but. We need to be better informed.
It's what we're working on.
Art, can you answer this? And you probably already did, but I missed it. So when these individuals petitioned and triggered this whole thing, was it up to you guys to run with it then, or to squash it?
They have to run with it.
We're supposed to run with it. We know
So
that.
one person, just one person, so I know down the road, whatever drainage district it is, if one person comes in and says, look, this needs to be completed, I don't care how much it costs.
Actually,
It starts the ball rolling.
Yes, it actually can be,
Jim wanted to talk.
the board itself can be the one person.
Actually, I could have triggered it myself driving by the district. Anytime there was a beaver dam, if I see it, I mean, I had a couple of people say it and I go out and find them and, yeah, and I see the rest of the ditch.
Who do you go to?
So if I saw it, I could technically come in and at a meeting and ask to have it go to engineering.
And then it just spirals.
It just
from there.
starts, yeah. Jim, still there? You want to address that, Jim? I mean,
Yes. In a drainage district, all of the landowners whose names are spread upon the transfer books in the courthouse are entitled to trigger activity in the drainage district. And all it takes to trigger that is one landowner filing that petition with the auditor. The contents of the petition mean absolutely nothing. Nothing. It is not like a petition at law where you get hit by somebody's car and you set forth different allegations in your petition. All the petition needs to say is, I'm in this drainage district and my drainage isn't working very well. That's all. No magic language, no lawyer weasel words, no falderall. Then what happens is that petition triggers the board as required by law to hire an engineer. The engineer is required by law to go do a survey and investigation, file a written report. Once that written report is filed, then the board has to conduct a hearing on it. The board cannot squash it or sit on it. It is the rare time and rare interest, rare situation in drainage law that a drainage district can be sued. In fact, it's about the only time the district can be sued is if an engineer recommends a repair and the board sits on it and doesn't set a date for a hearing on the repair. Then an individual landowner can sue the board, sue the district to obtain a writ of mandamus to force the correction and to force the repair. So the train has not left the station yet. The train has been started some time ago, and only after today's hearing can a decision be made what to do. If the board decides that there's a good interest in getting some additional engineering and dividing this up into different projects, they can do so. They can send the engineer back out with instructions of how they want it somehow divided up. And then you hold a hearing on that. Nobody will go unnotified. All of the notifications in drainage procedure are sent out by ordinary mail and published in a newspaper of general circulation in the county. So there are two kinds of notice that go out. The notices that do go out tell you that there are reports on file at the auditor's office, and you can go to the auditor's office and pick them up. I got this report emailed to me today, and it's about 50 pages. So you talk about expense, it would be expensive for the district to mail these reports out to all you landowners. But if you're interested enough, you go to the courthouse and pick it up. And I think also Jackie's in the room, that they post it and you can see it electronically with what they have available with stuff in the courthouse. Does that clarify it?
Yes.
A lot of people can't go to the courthouse because they live in Texas or Missouri or whatever.
It's on our website too, David. You can
If
see it on.
it's on the website, then in this day and age, I'm technologically challenged. So it's a real struggle for me to get on the website. But my wife and my secretary are very good at it, so they can hook me up with that. But if you're in Texas for the winter, you probably have a wherewithal to have a computer, and you can hook in that way.
Okay.
good. Right.
It's cost us roughly $140 an acre. Is that what it's costing everybody?
Well, it's just an average cost.
184, because you're on lateral age.
Just on average, it's 140.
What? $184, you're on lateral H. Not all, not all, but.
Yeah.
All, everything you got running in lateral H.
The other ones, we had 3 others through email, and then Angus Beck gave me this stack.
Lateral, I'll show you lateral H.
You want Jake to read them?
I can read it.
So Jim said we can't do any work on our own creek, like if I see a beaver dam, I can't go down and rip it out, you're gonna arrest me or?
No, I'm not gonna, but technically you're not supposed to. That just,
You're supposed to call you and you,
I mean,
I thought that was the dumbest.
I cleaned part of my own ditch. I come in and asked the supervisors years ago if I could do it, and they said, yeah, you can go ahead and do it. So, and this is years ago, but
I'll go ahead and read the objections. Is there any more objections, written objections to be filed? When I start reading them?
Yep.
You understand? Yeah. No.
that's,
Objection to proposed open ditch repair, drainage district number 2, Worth County, Iowa. Todd R. Hepner and Renee M. Hepner hereby object to the proposed open ditch repairs in drainage district 2, and in support of the objection of their objection state. Hepner owns land in section 36, township 100 north, range 21, Worth County, Iowa. Hopner, or the Hepner land, in section 36, township 100 north, range 21, Worth County, Iowa, is used for hunting and recreational purposes. The vegetation of the Hepner land must not be disturbed for the land to retain its utility and its value. This land is beautiful, well-established trees, and it does not impede water flow in the ditch. If certain trees need to be removed, Hefner will work with the engineer. Hefner will follow the engineer's plan and mark certain trees for removal by the contractor employed by Hefner at their expense, or for removal by the contractor retained by the drainage district. Hefner objects to the proposed open ditch repairs and requests any repair be confirmed only the ditch and not disturb the surrounding areas adjoining the ditch. He objects to the use of the easement area and requests that use of the easement area be limited to only the area required to clean the ditch and then restored as much as possible to its previous condition. Hefner objects to the sale of any land for any purpose or any reason in connection with the proposed open ditch repairs. Todd Hefner and Renee Hefner request the proposed open ditch repairs be denied in its entirety, or an alternative that any repair be confined to only the ditch and not disturb the surrounding area draining the ditch. Use of the easement area must be limited to only the area required to clean the ditch and restore as much as possible. I think we've already talked about the trees in general. As for the easement area, I don't know if it was mentioned before, within the right of way, the district owns that property, has the right to use that land for any repairs needed. I think Colton did mention that there's work limits to extend beyond that. There is the idea that we would need to have more room to work to even get into the site or to spread spoil, burn trees within that work area, but outside the right of way, the landowner will be compensated for the damages. So if you've got corn crop there and the corn crop's destroyed, you will be paid by the district for that corn crop or for reseeding grass, anything like that. And that'll be handled at the completion hearing, which will be after the project is completed. All landowners who had land along the ditch where work was completed are invited to that completion hearing. And then there's a report of damages at that time. David, do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, Jacob, yes, we talked about, you and I think you're the one who I spoke with about meeting with Mr. Hepner to identify which trees have to come out before the work's done. Is that something that still works and you can give me something in writing to say that?
Yes, I can still give you something in writing that we will meet with the contractor and Todd or Renee to look at what trees need to be cleared out during the time of construction.
Right. And also, I know we talked to, and I know this reiterates it, but we talked about trying to work around trees to the extent possible. So you can perhaps leave as many as possible, assuming they don't impede the flow of the ditch, correct?
Yes, for the ones on top of the ditch bank, if we can work around them, we can work around them. Anything
Okay.
More goddamn trees. You leave one tree there, cottonwoods and they'll have 100 of them grown a foot high in 2 years.
Okay.
No trees on ditch banks.
So, yeah, within the right of way,
Right away, that's not right.
within the right of way, to be able to get an excavator there, because I know in that property, there is about 2 feet of silt coming out. We'll have to remove the trees, just to even get to it, but beyond that, if there's one that can be saved, maybe if there's a surface drain nearby.
100 foot right away, so 50 feet. 100 feet from
50 feet each way, from center line of the ditch.
which is
Okay.
not a lot.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
This is from Gary Gordon. Worth County Auditor, I'm objecting to the proposed repairs and improvements to drainage district number 2. Sue Johnson, to whom it may concern, I will not be able to attend the meeting on Monday, December 19th. I would like you to know that I'm opposed to proposed repairs and or improvements in said drainage district number 2. I cannot afford to pay this. Please confirm that you received this email. Thank you, Sue Johnson. Would like to say there is no improvements proposed as part of this, only repairs.
Right.
So. This is from Randy Stein. I would like to go ahead on record that I object to the proposed repair on drainage number 2. Randall side. Karen
I
Tennell,
would call Jim Hagan down the question I can't.
oppose the proposed repair project for drainage number 2 for Worth County, Iowa. Russ Tennell, oppose the proposed repair project for drainage number 2. Renee Tennell, oppose the proposed repair for drainage number 2. Signatures of those opposed to drainage district open ditch repairs. I can't read these right. I can't read.
I got it all highlighted on the sheet if you want to read it.
It's
Okay.
the list that you read
Since
earlier.
you've already read everyone, I won't
Okay.
reread it. This is. Oh, this is just you confirming that you received Sue's email.
Oh,
Here's some more signatures people proposed. More signatures, more signatures. Here's all the signatures. So I think we've
Cover them all.
covered everybody.
And those were all the names that he read off alphabetical
Yeah.
a little bit ago, so.
That have all been read off. At this point, all the objections have been read. Is there any more discussion before the board? You can either decide to do something today or continue another hearing. I know it's been talked about on a couple options. Do you want to break this up in this? You want us to have us go back and write a letter, see what the cost would be if we broke it up into smaller pieces? Compare that to what it would be compared to finance charges if we did it all as one piece.
Jacob, that's my recommendation. I think we should do that. Then we can see, these folks can see, the ones that aren't here, couldn't make it, could see what it's gonna actually cost. If we did weigh one versus the other. And then we'll continue this hearing, I would say, into January sometime.
Let's set that date today.
Straight up set the day.
Mr. Chairman, this
Go
is Jim Hudson. I want to make certain that the board fixes the interest rate. And if you're going to consider payments over a period of years, fixes that. So that landowners know what they're looking at.
Right.
That will give them more information and they'll be better able to make a decision. I didn't comment about it, but since this district was just recently reclassified, that is really good to have that done because you can tell pretty close to exactly what your assessment will be. In recent years, we've been trying to I'm saying the word pre-classify drainage districts rather than wait until after it's over. That way the landowners can make a better informed decision whether or not they want to do it or not do it. This is a repair, so a repair has to be done. It's mandatory that a repair be done, but there are different ways to do that repair. and different ways to finance that repair. I had experience in Palo Alto County, which is Emmitsburg. Just to consider this, years ago, and they reduced the interest rate from 5 or 6% to 3%. Because of that, they could not get good bids from contractors because most contractors don't keep their warrants for an investment. They want to be paid and they have other ongoing expenses. So local lenders would not buy their warrants. I don't know what the going interest rate might be for an operating loan with a farming operation. I think it's in the 4 to 5% range. Landowners would know better, but you know, maybe you can go less than 6, go to 5, give that a try. I see Jackie shaking her head. I don't know what you do or don't do.
Well, we just don't really want to be the bank if we
Right.
don't have to be. We'd rather you go to your
lender.
and-
Well, but you do pay your bills by using stamped warrants,
Yes.
Yes.
and you pay whatever interest rate you set.
Yeah.
So like I'm a provider. I'm happy to get a stamped warrant. I have people standing in line to buy my drainage warrants because they're secure and generally good interest rate. And the stamped warrant is only taxable on that buyer's Iowa income tax return. It's exempt from federal income tax. So it's a really nice investment. And I'll tell you how secure it is. If a landowner doesn't pay his assessment, the land can come up for tax sale just the same way as if you don't pay your real estate taxes. So it's really secure. That's about all the financing I want to discuss because I'm not very well qualified to discuss finances, and you don't need to hear my long-standing joke about myself on that.
Okay.
I had just one more.
Go ahead, Doug.
question, Mark. And, so when it's been said over and over again, it's been put into motion. You can't stop it. It's repairs. Okay, what are in the bylaws then as far as timeline? Is it 6 months? Is it 10 years? Is it 4 years? What's the bylaws say?
That's, Jim, can you answer that?
The code doesn't have a time period. The code just says that repairs are mandatory. So you can move the timeline out some, but if it's to the point where their repairs aren't being made and people aren't getting their good drainage that they expect, all of you landowners in the district are paying to receive adequate drainage. And if you don't have a good outlet, you can't use field tile or surface draining. So it's, you got to get to the point where it works for everybody in your operation.
Okay.
So it
Go ahead.
sounds like to me, we need to change the law so everybody takes care of their own. Wish we could,
Good luck with that.
because then we wouldn't
Well-
have, to- it's ridiculous. Someone,
Yeah, that's the bad, that you're in a drainage district. That's what it is. There's parts of this county that are not in drainage districts, and that's their
yeah,
responsibility to take care of their own.
I'm guessing
People
this is
take
how
care
we
of their
end
own
up.
trees, we wouldn't probably be sitting here
We'd
today.
be fine.
What's the policy with the Deer Creek watershed? I mean, basically, no trees allowed.
Well, so
We-
that was a federal project. So, and it hasn't officially, I don't think, been turned. Yeah, so we need to, yeah,
But moving forward, after you do a project like this, maybe something should be done so in 50 years,
so if,
these trees don't grow back.
yeah, we already hire for all the other districts. And probably that one there too, if it's still feasible, we have a guy that comes and sprays on a 3-year rotation
For trees.
for trees.
Can you guys write up an ordinance for Worth County that says take care of your trees or else we'll send you the bill?
It's kind of that way right now, isn't it, Jim?
Take care of your property, you own it.
It's kind of that way right now, Jim.
It is,
Yeah.
They have a maintenance program where they have the saplings sprayed, so they don't grow up and become an expensive problem, and they don't impede the flow of water in your drainage ditch or your district drain tiles. And it's, I know you don't like it today, but it has worked pretty well across the state for many years.
Jim?
Yep.
If I may, so today as part of this hearing, we have the opportunity to continue it. And we want to set our
Interest rate.
payment timeline and our interest rates. Is that part of this hearing? Is that correct?
Yes. I
Okay.
recommend you do it. If I'm a landowner sitting out there, I want to know what interest rate I might pay. And I want to know how many years I have to pay it. And I want to know how often you're going to do this. You know, if you separate the time period of making the repair.
Mark, I'm gonna recommend up to 20 years on the length of the term at 6%.
At 6%. Is there a second?
I second
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on this? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Both same sign. Motion will carry. Okay. So,
Mr. Chairman, could I just clarify something quickly so the landowners know? If you reach a point in your operation that 6% doesn't work for you, if you get a really fair-minded, good banker that says, I'll loan you money for 3%, go pay off that obligation, you can prepay the installment payments at any time without any prepayment penalty.
correct.
And it is simple interest. It's not compounded interest. So there are a lot of different ways you can do this. You also can choose your length of years up to 20. You just set the length as 20 years. You can choose every 40-acre tract. You could pay cash for one, 20 years for another, or borrow money at the bank for another 40 acres. So every 40-acre tract, there's a different possibility.
Okay,
It's all up to the landowner how they want to use it.
okay. So how far, what's the date? You got a date?
I was thinking January. Let's get out of the holidays. 23rd.
Works for me.
Martin Luther King's the 16th, so let's do the 23rd.
Yeah, works for me.
We'll
We'll bring our report with us.
Okay.
If we can, we'll try to file it before, so you will have it at the auditor's office.
But in the meantime, we can try to get these numbers squared away on if we break it up into sections, what the cost would be for just those, right? Okay, like we discussed,
Shoot for 9:30 again.
9:30, January 23rd.
23rd.
And that's the notification.
So Jim, do I have to send out letters or post something in the paper for this January 23rd meeting?
No, there's no further notice. Everybody needs to mark their calendars and write it down. You probably post it on your website so they can check back with that.
David, you said there's 2 or 3 people that you think didn't get notices?
Well, they know now, but they
Oh,
never.
okay. All right. I
You
did.
said Gary Gordon was one,
No, Norm Johnson,
Norm Johnson.
Sue Johnson. My sister,
The address changes or anything that would have got screwed up maybe, or?
Mike Gaskell got a hold of Norm for me.
Okay.
I don't know. He's got 3, 4 houses all over the,
Because all the addresses that were listed on the parcel as the taxpayers is the addresses I sent
you
the
know,
notices to, so,
maybe he's not home, but
okay.
Okay,
But he's the 3rd, 4th largest payer on this project, so, you know.
okay.
So yeah, I'll make a motion to continue it to January 23rd at
Is there
9:30.
a second?
I'll second
Moved and seconded for discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign, motion will carry. Okay. I guess that's probably it for now.
What was this here?
Take a motion to close this public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.